Hey, my name is Jerry Lear, and I'm one of the two members of Absolute Audio.
And I'm Luke. Welcome to Absolute Audio. Jerry, tell me about how you got into first-person shooters specifically. I know you've done a lot of mods and level design and stuff, but how did that tie in with your music approach?
I think Wolfenstein probably was the beginning. Blake Stone, 7, all those. And then it was a shareware or a shovelware CD that had just a bunch of shareware on it, just taken from the internet for free that they pulled. And I saw level editors for Doom. And I saw those, and then I went out and bought Doom specifically to make levels. And I just have played it since.
That's awesome.
Like way back in '94.
Were you like me? Were you putting CDs in the computer? And I was listening to Metallica. I was listening to Ride the Lightning. What did you do? Did you make music for it and shove it in the game, or what?
I had basic MIDI music, and so did Doom. Wolfenstein was more like World War II sounding stuff, but I would a lot of times mute the music or just have it quiet and then play just old grunge from the 90s, just whatever, Alice in Chains, whatever I was listening to.
When did you start using Acid, the non-LSD type? When did you start with Acid software?
2000, I found it at Best Buy. It was around like 200. I thought, well, I'll give it a try, and then I was already using a few softwares that weren't quite the same thing. It was just like Sound Recorder. I didn't even plug my guitar in for a half a year until it dawned on me I could do that. I was
awesome.
Just chopping up loops. But yeah, 2000, and then Orion popped up in 2005.
So let's check out the video that you did for Acid real quick. You kind of went through and showed off a session. What's the song that's in Acid? I'm sorry, you got two video clips. What's the one in Acid?
Acid or Angel Horns.
And is that one going to be in Project Warlock 2, or is it still being considered?
Cuba had heard it, and he liked it. He said he's starting to fall in love with it, so he asked for it. So I'm not sure. I'm imagining so.
That's a big one. It's got like 90 tracks or something, right?
Yeah, 95.
Cool, let's check it out.
This is the first software program I ended up using fresh out of high school. This was called Acid. I bought it from Best Buy in the year 2000 and started plugging my guitar in, my keyboard in, and chopping up royalty-free drum loops. And I'm going to play a preview of a song I have submitted for Project Warlock 2 called Angel with Horns. That was just the intro, and as you can see, there are 95 tracks on this guy. Some of them are muted, mind you, but I spent a lot of time back then, and I still spend quite a bit trying to perfect these things in Acid once I take them out of Orion. But back in these days, I hadn't discovered Orion yet. Let me go ahead and play pre-Orion keyboard. There should be a track on here somewhere. Key B, yeah. Let me give you a little sample of kind of the solo that I had used in a couple things and then settled on putting here, but this is from Project Warlock 2. But this is Acid.
So tell me, what's the big difference for you between Orion and Acid? I used Acid a long time ago, but I've never used Orion. I thought it was more of it's like a DAW with built-in plugins, or tell me about that.
There's a lot of software today that probably does both these things, but it is a DAW, or Acid is a DAW. It doesn't, I mean, it has MIDI capabilities, but When it comes to Orion, I use that because a lot of things that I want to do, you can't really play on the keyboard with one person. I mean, if you're not like Mozart skilled, you can't do a lot of the arrangements that you could come up with in Orion. It's basically piano. It's more or less a spreadsheet that you paint notes on. You can play MIDI, and I've done that to, get the notes down, and then it basically is unlimited what you can do.
That's really cool. And if you know them so well because you've been using them for so long, so
I only stick to those two.
yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. So let's check out Orion. Tell me about this song that you've got going in Orion for us, this video clip.
It's called Struggles 3. It's kind of a new remix of something I made in 2005. And I just consider it one of my favorite tracks that I've ever done in it because of how many notes, I guess, how elaborate it sounds. It's not really Warlock 2 material, but I figured I'd share just to show off the software.
Alright, this is Orion. This is the second software I picked up kind of in college, 2005 era, when I was in classes. We were making video games, and I kept getting picked for audio, and so I figured I'd broaden my horizons a little bit. I had a little free time. I wanted to find something that sounded like Nintendo, kind of where you could use chiptune, paint notes, stuff like that. I ended up just using regular synthesizers in the long run, but it was for a space shooter that took like 4 weeks for them to make, leading up to an overhead kind of dungeon Zelda type game where I used the same software and made more. Back then I didn't blend it with Acid much, and that's what I started to do in Project Warlock 1. Was I took the old software Acid and I took the new software Orion, and I kind of used them back and forth to get the final drafts of a lot of the songs, which ended up coming from back in this era that I didn't end up using for anything, and I felt they were too good to just leave alone. So as long as they fit a Warlock 1 theme where I could bend them to do so, I used them. This is my favorite track that I made back then. It's kind of been remixed a little bit recently, but it's still the same notes, it's still the same setup, and I would like you to hear it now. And that's Orion.
Alright, now you tried to get me into Reaper, but I seem to be stuck in ancient software I'm more familiar with. Can you describe Reaper for a non-user, kind of sell the software?
It's $60 for a license. It sells itself. I can't crash it. It's super user friendly. It's super developer friendly. There's so much material for learning it on YouTube. You can do anything you want in it. I was Pro Tools certified for over 20 years, and Pro Tools went to a subscription. I went to Reaper. I never looked back. I had less problems. And there's nothing wrong with ancient software. I use ancient synthesizers. I've got an MT32 sitting here and an FB01. And if MT32 means anything to anybody watching this, you know what I mean. It's the old sound module for the Sierra games. Like, you could actually get better sounds playing DOS games with the MT32, and I hooked it up, and I like some of the sounds. It's a Roland synthesizer, so it's definitely not user-friendly. So I've got to have some user-friendly and convenience, and Reaper spells that out for me.
Are there any plugins or VST instruments that you favor in Reaper?
I use pretty much exclusively stuff from Arturia. Their synthesizers, their V collection, it's on number 9 now, and I really like the Fairlight plugin, the old computer sampler workstation. It was like the first touchscreen monitor It had 8-inch floppy disk that would load like one sample, and it had a touchscreen with a light pen. It's really awesome, and it's just a lo-fi, grungy. It kind of limits what you can do, so you work in a certain flow, and the song that I'm going to showcase, I used it quite a bit. I got the drum sound, the bass, and some of the string sounds out of it. The song's called Chicago by Night.
How did you come up with the title for the track Chicago by Night?
When you picture Chicago by night, like a grungy city full of, it's from a role-playing game called Vampire, and I never played Vampire, but I always enjoyed the title. Titles are important to me, so when you picture Chicago at night and the idea of vampires roaming the city, I get this real, I don't know, imagery or sounds in my head, and the Fairlight was perfect for it. So hopefully that translates in what you hear in the song. Okay, so here we are in Reaper. I'm not going to show you every single plugin or whatever, or my entire workflow for this track. Here's my mastering chain real quick. I almost exclusively use IK Multimedia for most of my processing plugins. My synthesizers are usually Arturia or Korg, and the Arturia Fairlight CMI is all over this track. So it's one DX7. You're going to hear the Fairlight on the bass, the keys, this whispering sound, and the drums. So I'm just going to play it, solo some stuff, let you hear it, and then we're going to move into a section I used Sample Tank 4 to create, and hope you enjoy it. Okay, so as you may have heard there, the drums, they sounded a little bit out of time, and I think that's primarily because they were, so I apologize for that. What's interesting about the Fairlight is you step record inside the plugin. This is one of the first touchscreens with a light pen, and it's finicky, just like the old hardware version. So rather than draw the MIDI notes in Reaper, which I've done with which you can do on some of the other tracks with the Fairlight, I opted to do it inside the plugin right here. You can see you have to do it with a mouse. You can't even play it. So it's super awkward. It's super finicky. And when I updated, for whatever reason, it didn't, the preset. I blame my tools. What can I say? So the next section is kind of fun as well. I use Sample Tank for that one, and I'm just going to let it play. You're going to hear a choir, you're going to hear a timpani. It's the same sort of theme, but with a little bit different attitude. So again, I hope you enjoy it.
But we'd like to thank Retro Vibe, our friends at Buckshot Software, fans of old school retro first-person shooters, everyone at Saving Sound.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Where can you be found online, Jerry?
I run a website with too much stuff. www.lear.me. I feed on Twitter and the Retro Vibe Discord.
Right on. Yeah, you can check out theabsoluteInaudio.com if you want to hear some more of our work. Jerry's got a bunch of music on his website he just mentioned. I'm on Twitter. I'm on the Discord. Join our Discord and come hang out with us. We're pretty easy to find. We're happy to answer questions, talk about games or music or whatever. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.